Welcome to Extraterrestrial Reality. Well, the Ariel School UFO incident of 1994 is beginning to drive the debunkers and deniers totally insane, actually. It's really cracking them. They're beginning to crack up because of this. And it's understandable. I mean, these are people who really don't want to believe in this extraterrestrial reality. But unfortunately, they're having a lot of issues with the Ariel School because it's undeniable. Anyway, I've been talking about this. I recently did a couple of podcasts about this, and one of the recent ones was entitled "Deciphering the Ariel School Aliens Message," where I said that it seems like maybe the message that was being sent by these beings that day in September of 1994 was that they're warning us. They're basically giving us a warning that if we try to use nuclear weapons on one another again, that they're going to take over. That's just it was just a theory. But I've been talking about this a lot, and there was another recent podcast where I talked about how basically the Ariel School incident makes this whole thing undeniable. You can't deny that there's a extraterrestrial presence here. I mean, there was just too many witnesses. Okay, and just to give a brief overview again of the Ariel School incident, which I have given several times recently. Basically, in September of 1994, during a recess in the morning at this school in Ruwa, Zimbabwe, called Ariel School, there was a bunch of children outside on a recess playing, eating their lunches, and then while the teachers were inside at a conference, and what happened was flying saucers showed up with alien beings, and a lot of these kids, over 60 kids, said they witnessed this, a flying saucer and alien beings, and some of the kids had received telepathic messages from one of these beings. Well, for the more recent video, I posted it on Twitter. I usually don't do that a lot anymore. Sometimes I do, but this one I made a little clip from the video, and I included the link for that podcast video on Twitter. And I usually don't receive any kind of comments. I don't have that big of a following on Twitter. I only have maybe 250 followers, maybe, not that many. But anyway, I did get some responses from debunkers on this, and we're going to start with there was Mick West, the biggest debunker of our age, had posted something. He always posts rotten, uninspiring, anti-extraterrestrial reality rhetoric on his Twitter feed. That's what he does. And I put a response in there writing, and I wrote the 1994, or he was basically downplaying the whole thing, that there's nothing to it, and I tweeted back to him saying the 1994 Ariel School incident makes it undeniable there is an extraterrestrial presence here. Just because Mick West hates this reality and spouts against it means nothing. And P.S. Who cares about gimbal rotation? Bottom line is it's a flying saucer. Rotation stuff is irrelevant. That's something else I've been hammering away at recently. Like, there's all this discussion by debunkers and deniers. Oh, that there's something with the rotation in that video, like that it's really the object itself isn't rotating. The camera's just rotating. That's it. Well, okay, maybe not. There's other people saying that that's not true. I'm not sure. And the bottom line is, as far as I'm concerned, what does it matter if the gimbal was a flying saucer, right? But then there was somebody that named UFO historian, and this a Twitter user named UFO historian. I don't know who this person is. That's not their real name, obviously. UFO historian. This person's not a UFO historian, however. This person's a UFO debunker. That's what his real name should be. But this guy just debunks everything. He has no proof to back any of his claims up either. And he wrote, if you think the Ariel case is undeniable, you need to recalibrate your evidential standard. 3/4 of those children reported that nothing at all happened. Well, there were 60-some kids that did see something that happened. And I don't know where he got his information from about the 3/4 of the children. I don't know how many kids were at school that day, but what does it matter? There were 62 kids who did see something, so what does that matter? And then there was another one here. It says somebody named Fubar saying, I'm not privy to all the details of the case, but I think I remember seeing Brian Dunning. Let's just stop here for a minute. Brian Dunning, he's another debunker. This is a guy who's just debunks, sits back in his armchair, throws out, just makes proclamations. I proclaim it's not real. Next. That's all he is. But anyway, this person here named Fubar on Twitter wrote, I'm not privy to all the details of the case, but I think I remember seeing Brian Dunning claiming Hind and Mack. Now, okay, Hind is actually Cynthia Hind. She was the first UFO investigator to go to Ariel School and interview the kids and teachers. And Mack, Dr. John Mack, of course, he showed up later on, not long afterward. He's the late Harvard psychiatrist, Dr. John Mack, who went out there and interviewed the kids. But anyway, this person's saying, I'm not privy to all the details of the case, but I think I remember seeing Brian Dunning claiming Hind and Mack corrupted the data by way of the interview process. Seems like another story that'll forever be lost in the ethos with no real resolution, unfortunately. What? What are you talking about? Because Brian Dunning claimed something. Brian Dunning, who did no research on this, who just sat back in his armchair and just did nothing and just claimed that they corrupted the data? What are you talking about? Anyway, it's driving them crazy. They can't stand this story. Ariel School, to these people, right? Let me tell you something. The Ariel School UFO incident is like, it's like kryptonite to Superman. That's what this is to the debunkers. It's the same. I ask you what the way kryptonite is to Superman, the way it acts on Superman. That's what the Ariel School is doing to the UFO, extraterrestrial reality deniers and debunkers. It's acting like that. It's like the crucifix to Dracula, like I like to say. That's what it is. It's like in The Exorcist. In the movie The Exorcist, where at the end of I'm sure a lot of people, either if you didn't see it, you heard of it. In the movie The Exorcist, there was a young girl played by Linda Blair. She was possessed by Satan, and at the end, there's two priests that come and try to exorcise the demon from her. And they're at one point, they're standing there with the crucifix. By the power of Christ, I compel you. Right? In this case, it's like by the power of Ariel School, I compel you, because the Ariel School is driving the reality into these people, and they don't like it, and they're freaking out about it. They have to respond. They have to say things like this. I'm not privy to the details of the case, but I think I remember seeing Brian Dunning claiming Hind and Mack corrupted the data by way of the interview process. Seems like another story that'll forever be lost in the ethos with no real resolution, unfortunately. It's not lost. There's still a lot of witnesses here. Though you have to remember, there's over 60 kids. They're all grown up now. They're all saying the same story. See, again, this is driving them crazy. The Ariel School is turning out to be the key here because it's undeniable. You can't deny this. It really happened. There was actually a flying saucer landed. Alien beings came out, and one of those beings communicated telepathically with some of these kids. Anyway, moving on here, and when I posted that video about deciphering the Ariel School's alien message, I received some other comments there. In fact, I received a comment from Gideon Reed, and if you all remember, I talked about him earlier this year. Gideon Reed was the person who drummed up that phony puppeteer troupe explanation. He tried to say that what the kids really saw was there was a traveling puppeteer show that stopped there somehow magically. And I don't know how he thinks this could have possibly happened, but he's saying that there was puppeteers that showed up at the school, unbeknownst to all the teachers inside, right? And somehow were dangling big giant UFOs and alien beings somehow, and somehow sending telepathic messages into the kids' brains with these puppets. I don't know how that was possible, but anyway, that's who that person is, if you remember. But anyway, he says this is great. Do you mention it? He wrote to me, do you mention in your video that only 3 of the kids reported any kind of wordless communication? Okay, let's just stop there for a second on the first sentence here. Now, he's saying there's only 3 of the kids reported any kind of wordless communication. Like, only 3? What do you mean, only 3? I'm not sure what the number is, right? I know that there was at least 3. I'm not sure how many others were received messages, but okay, 3 kids received telepathic communication. That's not enough? What do you want? You want the all 62 of them, though? Have received the communication? What are you talking? What are you getting at here? Anyway, then he writes, this is another good one. This doesn't include Salma. He's talking about Salma Siddiq, who was one of the kids at the time. This doesn't include Salma, who was 1 meter from the alien, yet she received no message. Why? Okay, well, he wants me to answer why. I don't know the reason why, but hey, let's what did Salma say? I actually dug up there was something I found on Reddit where she was there was a meeting, she was a speaking engagement, and she was talking about her experience. And I will leave the link in the description for people like Gideon Reed to look at if they want more information. But anyway, here's what she experienced. Right, this isn't enough. Anyway, she said that for one thing, there's debunkers and deniers that like to say that all those kids were influenced by stuff on TV. Well, Selma Siddick said, well, no, they only had there's only three TV stations that they had, right? So there was nothing to influence the kids. And she said, unless you want to count E.T. the Extraterrestrial or the Jetsons. Okay, that was one thing. And now she was one of the older kids at the time, and she saw the being. She said the being was 4 feet high, humanesque in qualities, very unusual, big black eyes. Right now, when it first happened, she saw the something glimmering, and she just thought it was a reflection for something. And she saw the kids running toward us, so she went over because she was worried about her brother and her sister because she didn't want them to be scared about whatever was going on. When she got there, she found herself 1 to 2 feet away from one of these beings, and she was frozen in place. She said she couldn't move. She could not break eye lock. Right, that's what she said. She said she was frozen in place and couldn't break the eye lock that she was engaged in. She said there was an eerie quietness around me, and in my mind, as we locked eyes, she no longer heard the chaos of the playground. All the noise just went away. She says, I felt timeless stillness, captivated by this presence, unsureness of what I was looking at, but knowing it was not the norm. I know now, even if I don't make complete sense of it, it was special. And then she explained it was like a bad dream, and when it was over, when she was finally able to break from the eye lock, she finally somehow broke from it. She was concerned about her younger brother and sister. That's what she went looking for them, right? She said it was very hard to break free, but when she did break free, she felt very exhausted. It was an exhausting experience for her. So there you go. I mean, she was okay. Maybe she didn't have. There was no telepathic transference of information into her brain, but she couldn't move. Right? She was stuck in some sort of eye lock. That's not enough. And again, she's only one of 60 some kids that were there that saw this thing up close. So I don't know what this person's getting at. Again, they're reaching at straws. It's driving them crazy. It's driving them mad. They can't deal with this reality, and the Ariel School, they don't have any explanation for it, and they're trying, and they can't do it because there's no way they can do it because it really did happen. Anyway, continuing here with some more, and somebody else responded to him, this other guy, Charlie Weiser. So, and those three were all asked leading questions by John Mack until they came up with what he wanted to hear. What? Where's that at? I never saw that. That's not true. That's nonsense. I've seen interviews. They weren't leading questions. John Mack knew what he was doing. He was a trained psychiatrist. He was a Harvard professor. He knew what he was doing. He wasn't asking them leading questions. But see, these people just say these things because they don't know what else to say because that's all they can say. What else could they do? They just got to attack the researchers because they don't have any researchers of their own, right? There's no Debunker or Mick West or none of these people, right? They never traveled over there. They never met with all these people that were witnesses to this. You don't see any books that are written by these people that are trying to explain Ariel. They don't. That's the last thing they want to talk about. Again, it's like I'm Van Helsing and they're Dracula, and I'm here. Instead of a crucifix, it's Ariel School, and they're like, they can't stand it, they hate it, that's driving them insane. But anyway, it's a good thing though because this might be what breaks them. This might be what finally breaks through the whole. If we keep talking about the Ariel School, it becomes, you look at this story. There's nothing here. Nobody can really say anything to dispute it. You can't really criticize it. It's a story with enough witnesses. It's incapable of criticism. It just can't. You can't. There's nothing there. It's a done deal. It's real. It really happened. Aliens were there. Kids saw them. A lot of them did. Yeah. Then somebody else writes here, BR writes, when watching video interviews, not just reading transcripts, between Dr. Mack and the Ariel School children, does it seem to you that he was misleading the kids with his questions and they were responding affirmatively rather than recounting their actual memories and experiences? And I just simply responded, no. No, it did not. No, they were telling him what happened. See, again, these people, they're driving him insane. They can't deal with this. This is too much. It's too much for them. Ariel School it's like hanging a chain with a chunk of kryptonite around Superman's neck, and I can't do anything. I'm useless now. Hey, get this kryptonite off my neck. Get this Ariel School off my neck. I can't lie with it on. I sound stupid when I'm lying now. They're better off just staying away from it. They're better off just staying away from it because this ain't going to get them anywhere. They're going to drive. Actually, you know what's happening here, though? By bringing up the Ariel School incident on a regular basis, constantly hammered it away. Sooner or later, you're going to chisel away at this, and they're going to have to just acknowledge it. I mean, what else? There's nowhere to hide from it. It's real, and there's no amount of nonsense debunkerism is going to change anything here. It's just not. You just got too many witnesses. Again, I said this before. If this went to a court of law, these people would be. It would be over. The court would, it would be, yeah, Ariel School is real. Next case. Bring in the next case. Yeah, these people just don't have a leg to stand on here. They're losing their grip on this one. This is the one that Mick West and all these other debunkers could talk about UFO pictures and rotation and gimbal videos all day long, but when it comes to Ariel School, it's driving them crazy. They can't debunk it. There's no way to debunk it. Too many witnesses. Oh my God, let's just pretend it didn't happen. Oh, this guy's talking about it on Twitter again. Let's try to come up with some lies and try to make him go away. I don't know. I feel sorry for them. I mean, actually, the reality of this whole situation I think what's happening here, you're seeing they're starting to crack. That's what the bottom line is. Ariel School was causing some of the deniers and debunkers. It's causing them to begin to crack. They're starting to crack at the seams, and they can't find the answer. There's no solution that they have. Nothing makes sense to them. I mean, you go from the the traveling magical traveling puppeteer troupe theory, which was presented earlier this year, and then you have nonsense like this. Hey, only 3 kids said they had received telepathic. Only 3, huh? Wow, just 3. What about and Selma? Oh no. Well, no, Selma. Well, what about Selma? She said she was frozen in place and she couldn't move, and she was locked in an eye lock with this being, and she was only 1 to 2 feet away from it. I'll leave the link. Check it out. You're starting to crack. They're starting to crack. They can't take it. They hate it. They hate people like me. They don't like talking to people like me online because I mean, could you imagine? Let's say one of these debunkers ever tried to debate me. Imagine what that would be like. Imagine. I know what will happen. I know who's going to win that debate.